The cardboard box in her hands did not look heavy. It looked heavy because her grip kept slipping. I was standing at the edge of my lawn, sun in my eyes, sweat on the back of my neck from cutting ivy off the fence line. For 3 days, I had been working that strip between our houses, trying to turn my fixer-upper into something that felt like a home. For 3 days, I hadn't seen a single car in her driveway. I had only seen her. Sometimes she paced the porch, sometimes she checked her phone, then vanished inside like someone had yanked her backward by an invisible rope. Today was different. Today she stood still on the top step with that box in her hands, chin lifted, a smile on her face that never made it down to her shoulders. Those stayed up and tight, like she was waiting for a punch. She bent, re-gripped the box, almost dropped it again. I set my head shears down in the grass on purpose so she could see both my hands empty. Then I walked toward her and stopped at the walkway like I was knocking on a door without touching it. "Need a hand?" I called. Not loud, just enough to reach her. She jumped anyway. Her head snapped toward me. Dark waves of hair shifted over her shoulder. She was late 30s, polished, that kind of beauty people assume comes with a wall around it. Right now, the polish had cracks. "I'm fine," she said. The box slid a little. She dragged it back into place against her hip, just reorganizing. "I'm Jackson," I said. I wiped dirt on my gray t-shirt without thinking. "Bought the place next door. If you need help with that, I've got 10 minutes before I have to head out." She hesitated. Her eyes flicked to my truck, then to my hands, then down the street. Left, right, left again, like she was expecting a car to show up and decide for her. "My husband is on a trip," she said at last. The way she said it sounded like a line she'd practiced. "He hates it when things are moved, but I need to move the furniture. Today, before the weekend." It was Tuesday. Whatever was pushing her was not on a calendar. She stepped down one stair, close enough that I smelled vanilla and clean laundry. The smile on her mouth turned into something lighter, like she was trying to pretend this was normal neighbor talk. "Here," she said. She tipped the box toward me. Our fingers brushed when I took it. Her breath hitched. She snatched her hand back like she had touched something hot and pressed it flat against the side of her jeans to steady herself. "Thanks," she said. "You waiting on someone?" I asked. I nodded at the street. Her eyes cut that way, sharp and scared. "No." Too fast. I didn't push. I just shifted the box in my arms to show her I was ready. "Point the way." She let out a controlled breath and turned toward the door. Her hand stayed on the lock for a beat too long after she opened it. Click. Then another click. Deadbolt. Like the sound itself was proof she still had control. The air inside wasn't cold from the AC. It was cold from how the place was arranged. Everything was expensive and exact. Couch pillows lined up in a perfect row. Coffee table at a perfect angle. Not a single thing out of place, which somehow made the whole living room feel wrong. She shut the door and leaned against it for half a second, eyes closed. Then she caught herself, pushed off, and put space between us again like she had snapped a mask back on. "Living room," she said, keeping one careful step ahead of me. I set the box down where she pointed. When I straightened, I saw it. Dead center of the room stood a massive dark oak armoire. Old, heavy, fancy in a way that said, "Rich man, not family heirloom." The kind of piece people buy to prove they can. "That," she said, her voice had a strain in it now. "I want it in the garage or on the curb, I don't care, just out of this room." I looked it over. Solid wood, thick back panel, carved feet, 300 pounds, easy. "We'll need to protect your floors," I said. "I can skid it on a blanket." "I can help," she said quickly. She started rolling up the sleeves of her white blouse. The shirt looked crisp but tired, like she had slept in it. There was a plain white tank top under it, dark jeans on her hips. Practical, not dressed up. She tugged at the hem like she was bracing for a meeting. "No," I said, calm, firm. "You get doors. I'll handle the weight." I levered the armoire forward with a grunt. Wood groaned. I slid a folded blanket under the feet. When the cabinet tipped, the wall behind it showed. Fresh drywall patch. A rough oval of new compound, right at head height. Too new, too rushed. Elena saw it too. Her jaw tightened, her fingers curled against the seam of her jeans. Her hand shook while her chin lifted like she was trying to act like it meant nothing. "He bought it," she whispered. Not to me, to herself. Not for me, for the room. He loved that thing. "It's ugly," I said. She blinked fast. Then a real smile broke loose. Tiny, but real. "It is," she said, like she had been waiting years to hear that. I got the armoire moving, step by step. She went ahead, opening doors, checking hallways before crossing them, pausing at windows to peek out. Every movement was controlled, like she didn't want the house to hear her. By the time I shoved the armoire into the garage, sweat ran down my spine, and my arms felt like lead. She hovered near the doorway, but never in my path. When I walked back into the living room, she was at the front window, lifting the curtain just enough to see the street, then dropping it. "You should go," she said without turning around. She checked her watch. 5:45. "He calls at 6, I said quietly. Her shoulders tightened. She didn't answer, but she did not ask how I knew. I had spent 3 days cutting ivy and watching patterns. Lights, shadows, pace. I gave her space. "I'm right next door," I said. "If you need anything, you yell." She nodded once, a hard little jerk like it hurt. I let myself out. Back at my place, I ignored the text from my buddy about beer and invoices. I showered, pulled on a clean gray shirt, and sat on my front porch as the sun slid down. At 6 on the dot, her kitchen lights snapped on. Through her thin curtain, I saw her silhouette pick up the phone. She stood stiff, one hand gripping the counter edge, the other holding the receiver like it weighed 40 pounds. She didn't move much. The call went on and on. The line of her shoulders got tighter, not looser. I stayed where I was, hands around a cold bottle I didn't drink, listening to crickets and the far-off sound of a truck down the road. 3 days later, I was in my backyard framing a deck. The steady thwack of my hammer against wood was the only sound that made sense. Measure, cut, nail, repeat. Work is simple. People are not. "You start early," a voice called. I looked up. She was at the fence line, wearing oversized sunglasses and a light scarf even though the day was warm. She carried 2 mugs in her hands like they were an excuse to walk over. I set my hammer down and crossed to the fence. "I made too much," she said, lifting 1 mug. "Coffee?" "Caffeine is my love language," I said. She almost smiled. Our fingers brushed when she handed me the mug. She pulled back fast and wrapped both hands around her own cup like a shield. Her eyes drifted past me, over my half-built deck, to the garden behind her house. The beds were overgrown, edges dead and brown. It looked like a place that had been given up on. "I used to garden," she said quietly. I didn't rush her. I took a sip of coffee and waited. She adjusted her scarf. The fabric slipped just enough to show a faint yellow bruise at her collarbone. Old enough to be fading. New enough to still matter. Her hand flew up and fixed the scarf back into place in one smooth motion. Like she had done it before. I did not ask. If I pushed too hard, she would shut down or disappear, and I needed her to stay right here on this side of the fence. "I've got a surplus of hydrangeas coming in next week," I said. It was a lie, but a gentle one. Client overordered. I was going to toss them. "Your soil looks like it can handle them. Want them?" Quote. She studied my face like she was hunting for pity. She didn't find it. She just saw a neighbor talking about dirt. "Hydrangeas," she repeated. Her voice softened on the word. "I love hydrangeas." "Saturday," I said. "I'll drop them off. You tell me where to dig." She hesitated, then nodded once. "Saturday," she agreed. Her voice dropped. "If a silver Mercedes pulls in, you leave immediately." Quote. "Understood," I said, like we were talking about rain. Saturday came with a steady gray drizzle. I almost stayed in, figured the gardening was off. Then I saw her. She was in the yard anyway, thin raincoat, kneeling in wet soil, ripping weeds out like she was punishing the ground. I grabbed my tools and the shrubs I had gone out and paid full price for and headed over. "You're gonna catch a cold," I said, setting a bag of mulch under her porch awning. "I need to clear this," she said. Her voice was tight. "He said the yard looked like a disgrace. He saw it." I froze. "He's not here. How did he see it?" Quote. She pointed up toward the corner of the roof. A small black camera blinked a dull red. "He checks the feeds," she said. He called me screaming. Heat flared in my chest, hot and focused. I walked back to my truck, grabbed my ladder, and carried it over. "What are you doing?" she hissed. Her eyes jumped to the street. "Jackson, get down." "I'm fixing a leak," I said louder in case there was a microphone somewhere. I set the ladder and climbed in the rain, boots slipping once, hands steady. Up close, the camera line was clear, running through the soffit. Not cheap, not accidental. I cut the wire with my pliers and snapped the small lens off its mount. It swung uselessly. I climbed down. She stared at me like I had just committed a crime. "He'll know," she said. "The signal will cut." "Storm damage," I said, nodding at the sky. "Wind, branch. Happens." I stepped close enough that my body blocked her from the street. Rain drummed on her hood. Vanilla and wet earth filled the air between us. "Let's get inside," I said. "I'll make you tea, then we're going to see what else he wired into this place." Inside her kitchen, the quiet felt heavy. No TV, no music. Just the sound of rain on the windows and our breathing. I set the tea kettle on the stove out of habit and walked back to the living room, patch of fresh drywall still on my mind. I had spent a lot of years tearing into walls. Bad repairs always meant something. "Start with what we know," I said. She frowned. "What do we know?" Quote. "That patch behind the armoire," I said. "It was new, too new for a room that looks like a catalog." Her hand went to the side seam of her jeans again, that nervous squeeze. "He got mad once," she said quietly. "He punched the wall, then he had someone fix it." "Maybe," I said. "Or he hid something and covered it fast." I crossed to the wall and ran my knuckles over the patch. The sound came back different, hollow in one spot, solid in another. I crouched down and looked at the outlet near the baseboard. If someone ran a line, it would enter somewhere. "Where is your breaker box?" I asked. "Garage," she said. "Back wall." "Good, we are not doing this with live power." We walked to the garage together. She stayed close, but not touching. I flipped the main breaker. The house clicked and settled around us. "No power," I said. "So if anything goes wrong, we get dark, not dead." Her laugh came out thin, but real, comforting. Back in the living room, I took a screwdriver from my tool belt and knelt by the outlet next to the patch. "Hold the flashlight on my hands," I said. She did. Her fingers shook a little, but the light stayed steady. I took off the outlet cover and pulled it forward. Behind the normal wires, I saw something else. A thin extra line, taped in, running upward where it had no reason to be. "That is not standard," I said. Her breath stopped. She leaned in, then pulled back like the sight burned. "What is it?" she asked. "Could be power for a small device," I said. "Could be a feed for a mic or a camera." Her face went pale. I followed the line with my thumb, feeling the direction. Up, toward the ceiling, toward the hallway. "Smoke detector," I said. We moved into the hall. Plain white ceiling. One simple round detector mounted dead center. I took it down with 2 screws. Under the plastic, there it was. A small black module wired into the junction behind the plate. Not factory. Added. I held it in my palm so she could see. "This is not a normal detector," I said. She stared at it like it might bite her. "Is that a microphone?" she whispered. "Could be audio. Could be a recorder. Could even transmit." I said, "Either way, it is not supposed to be in your ceiling without your consent." Her fingers curled into a fist, then forced themselves open. She reached out and touched the module with one fingertip like she needed to feel it was real. "He has been listening," she said. Her voice was thin and steady at the same time. "In my own house." I met her eyes. "Not anymore." I showed her the sloppy splice in the outlet box. I put her phone in her hand and guided it so she got pictures of everything. Wires, module, patch. I held things in place while she took shot after shot. "Dates," I said. "Time. You keep all of this." She nodded like she was in a meeting again, taking orders she wanted. Then I snipped the extra line, capped the ends with real connectors, and pushed everything back into the box clean. No loose ends. No sparks. No drama. Power went back on with a flip in the garage. The lights came up like nothing had changed. But everything had. She met me in the hallway, hands wringing the edge of her blouse. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because everyone deserves privacy in their own house," I said, "and because I don't like bullies." She swallowed hard. "He controls the accounts," she said. "Every card, every login. If I leave, I have nothing. I cannot even buy groceries without him seeing." "You have options," I said, "but you need proof, patterns, not just fear." Her eyes sharpened. That was the lawyer part of her waking up, or maybe just the smart part. "I can get proof," she said. "Calls, messages, recordings." "Good," I said. "You save every call from him, every text, every email. Screenshot what you can. Record the worst ones. You do it slow, quiet, not all in one night." She nodded. "Okay." When I left that evening, a silver Mercedes rolled slowly down the far end of our street. It did not stop. It just moved at a crawl, like it was counting houses, then turned the corner and vanished. I logged the time in my head and kept my face blank. Over the next 2 weeks, we built a routine. On the surface, it was simple. I worked my landscaping jobs during the day. When I got home, I worked her garden. To anyone watching, I was just the neighbor fixing the yard she did not have time to care for. She brought me iced tea at 5 every day, same glass, same amount of ice. She always set it down within reach and stepped back. I did not drink it right away. I let it sit where she could see my hands empty. Little things, little boundaries. Control given back. I fixed her back gate latch so it locked from the inside. I reset her porch light sensor so it came on faster. I tightened the loose pantry hinge so it did not squeak in the middle of the night. In return, she stopped peeking from behind curtains. She started looking out her window, she said. That night, I saw her pacing with a phone to her ear through the front window. At one point she stopped, turned toward my house, and lifted her hand in a small wave. I waved back from my porch in the dark. The shift came the next Tuesday. I got home late from a site. My truck was still dusty and my shoulders ached. Marcus, my longtime friend and sometimes boss, was sitting on my porch steps, work boots muddy. He did not bother with hello. He just held out a tablet. "Public filing," he said. "Came across my alerts, thought you might want to see." On the screen was a court document, big, bold names. Richard Vane versus Elena Vane. Divorce. Adultery. My stomach turned when I saw the next line. "Landscape contractor next door," Marcus said. "That would be you." My hands went cold even though the evening was warm. "We have not done anything," I said. "Doesn't matter," Marcus said. "He has pictures. You comin' and goin', you in the backyard." He waited until it looked domestic. Then he pulled the pin. I did not waste time. I handed the tablet back and headed straight for her house. I did not knock softly. I pounded. Elena opened the door with a courier envelope in her hand like it weighed 100 pounds. Her face was white. "You know," she said. "Not a question." "He was watching," I said. "He filed today." "He froze the cards," she said. "All of them. I tried to buy groceries. Declined. I checked the accounts. Empty. I cannot pay the lawyer now. I cannot pay my bills." She bit the inside of her cheek, hard. "He always does this. He cuts off air." "You will handle it," I said, my voice low and certain. "We will handle it." "You should not be here," she said. "I dragged you into this." "I walked in," I said. "On my own feet." Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to find the point where I would call this too much and walk away. She did not find it. "Sit," I said. "Breathe. We are not done yet." She sank onto the sofa like her legs could not hold her anymore. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Papers spilled out. Court stamps, dates, lies written in black ink. "He wins," she whispered. "He always wins." Before I could answer, The sound of heavy tires rolled over the gravel outside. We both went still. She looked at me, then at the window. We walked to it together. A moving truck had pulled up to the curb. Not a cheap rental, a high-end company with a sharp logo on the side. Behind it, smooth and smug, sat the silver Mercedes. "He is here," Elena said. The air left her chest in one long breath. My jaw tightened. "Then we meet him on the porch," I said. We stepped out onto the porch together. The air felt thicker, like the whole street was holding its breath. Rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet, and the sky was a low gray lid over the houses. Richard got out of the Mercedes like he was stepping onto a stage he owned. Mid-50s, perfect hair, suit that cost more than my truck, smile like a knife. He gave me one quick look, then dismissed me like I was part of the scenery. His eyes went straight to Elena, slow and sharp. "Movers are here to collect my property," he said in a smooth voice. "Since you have been so careless with it." He waved a folded document in his hand. Two movers in company shirts stepped out of the truck behind him. They looked tired, bored, already over it. "Get off my property, Richard," Elena said. Her voice shook at first, then steadied on his name. She did not stand behind me. She stood beside me, fingers just brushing my forearm like she was reminding herself I was there. "It is marital property," he said. He took a step onto the walkway, "and I have a court order allowing me to retrieve personal heirlooms to prevent damage by unauthorized guests." His eyes flicked to me again on the word guests. I walked down one step and put myself fully between him and the porch. Arms crossed, not puffed up, just solid. "The lady said leave," I said. Richard's mouth curled. "Ah, the help," he said softly. "Or the lover, does not matter. Move, son, or I call the sheriff." "Call them," I said, "please." He came closer, close enough that I could see the tiny lines at the corners of his eyes. Anger lines, not laugh lines. "I will ruin you," he said in a low voice. "I will bury your little business in lawsuits. You have no idea who you are dealing with." I did not blink. I lifted my phone and tapped the screen once, letting him see it. He froze for half a second. He did not know if I was recording or not. That was enough. His smile tightened around the edges. "Elena," he said, eyes jumping over my shoulder. "Tell your toy to move." She stepped down a stair, closer. Her hand slid fully onto my arm now, firm, not pulling me back, standing with me. "The furniture is gone, Richard," she said, clear and loud. He stared. "What?" "The armoire, the antique chairs, the tables," she said. "I donated them last week." Color rushed into his face. "You did what?" he snapped. "I donated them," she repeated. "You can sue me for the value if you like, but you cannot take what is not here." It was a bluff. The armoire was sitting in the garage. But he did not know that. He hated not knowing. "You stupid woman," he hissed. His hand lifted, fast, anger breaking through the smooth act. I caught his wrist before he could finish the motion, not crushing, just stopping. A wall he had not expected. Elena's fingers dug into my arm, but she did not step back. "Touch me, and I call the police," she said. "Right now, in front of your movers, in front of my neighbor, witnesses everywhere." The movers shifted on their feet. They did not want to be part of this. Richard yanked his hand away from my grip like it burned him. His eyes flashed, not just with anger, but with calculation. He measured the porch, the street, the truck, all the pieces. "You will hear from my lawyers," he spat. "Good," I said. "So will yours." He turned on his heel and stalked back to the car. "We are leaving," he snapped at the movers. They loaded back up, truck doors slammed, engine roared, and the whole caravan rolled away down the street. As soon as the Mercedes turned the corner, Elena's legs went out from under her. I caught her before she hit the steps, steadying her by the shoulders. "I have you," I said. She sat hard on the top step, breathing fast, eyes wet but not spilling over. Her hand clutched my wrist like a lifeline. "He is going to come back," she whispered. "I know," I said, So we prepare. That night, I did not go home. Not really. I walked next door, washed my hands at her sink, and then sat in her living room with the lights off and the curtains cracked. She paced more than she sat. "He is obsessed with ownership," she said quietly. "He does not want me. He wants to own me." My jaw clenched. "Then we make ownership expensive," I said. Hours passed. Rain started again, soft on the roof. At 1:57 a.m., the lights in her house went out all at once. "Elena," I said. "It is just us," she whispered. She moved to the front window and lifted the curtain a sliver. "Streetlights are still on. Next house, too. Only this one is dark." My stomach turned. "He cut power at the main," I said. "He wants you to step outside. He wants you scared." She looked at me, eyes wide but steady. I stepped closer. "You stand where you can see me," I said. "If you want me to stop at any point, you say it. Clear?" She nodded. "Clear." I went out the back door into the wet night air. The grass soaked my boots. I circled to the side yard where the utility boxes sat. A shadow crouched near the meters. "Hey!" I barked. The shadow bolted. Not Richard. Younger. A kid. Maybe 20, with heavy pliers in his hand. He vaulted the fence faster than I could chase and vanished into the dark. I reset the breaker. The power hummed back on at once. When I stepped inside, Elena was in the hallway with a kitchen knife in her hand. She held it low, gripped firm, not like in a movie. Like she meant it. Her hand shook once. Then she clenched her jaw and stilled it. "He hired a kid," I said. "Power cut, vandalism. He is getting sloppy." She swallowed and slowly set the knife on the counter. Not because she was not scared, but because she was deciding who she wanted to be. "I need to show you something," she said. She led me to the garage and pulled a tarp off the armoire. It stood there, big and heavy, right where I had parked it. "It is still here," she said. I lied. "I know," I said. I had never moved it off the blanket. "I want it gone," she said. Her voice was flat now. "If it exists, it is a rope he can pull. I want it gone for real." I looked at the cabinet, at the clean lines and heavy doors. "We do not burn it," I said. "Smoke draws attention. We break it down and haul it out in pieces." "Why not just hide it?" she asked. "Because if he comes back with a warrant and finds it, that makes you the liar," I said. "If he finds nothing, it is his problem, not yours." Her eyes hardened. "Then let's do it," she said. The decision was a click in the air. We grabbed what we had. Sledgehammer, pry bar, my work gloves. I set a drop cloth on the floor to catch splinters. I swung first, a hard hit to the side panel. The sound was loud and sharp in the garage. Wood split along a grain line. Elena flinched at the noise, then stepped forward. "Let me," she said. I handed her the hammer. She raised it like it weighed more than she did, then brought it down on the cabinet door. The wood cracked, the glass rattled, dust rose. She hit it again. Harder. Her shoulders shook, teeth clenched so tight I could hear it between blows. Tears ran down her face, mixing with sweat, but she did not stop. I did not try to take the hammer from her. I did not tell her to calm down. I just steadied the armoire from the side so it didn't fall on her and pulled nails when she loosened boards. Every swing sounded like a word she had never been allowed to say out loud. When the cabinet finally collapsed into a pile of boards and broken panels, she let the hammer drop. It hit the concrete with a dull thud. She stood there, chest heaving, hands shaking. Sawdust clung to her hair and her cheeks. She looked down at the wreckage, then back up at me. "He does not own me," she said. Her voice was hoarse and low. "No," I said. "He does not." She took 2 steps toward me and grabbed the front of my shirt in both hands. She pulled me down to her. I stopped just long enough to look into her eyes, to make sure this was not fear talking. "Elena," I said quietly. Her hands were steady now. Her eyes were clear. "Do not stop," she said. "That was all I needed." She kissed me, not soft and unsure. It was a crash. Weeks of tension snapping at once. Her fingers tightened in my shirt like she was anchoring herself. My hands went to her waist, firm and careful, grounding her and myself. When we finally broke apart, she kept her forehead against mine. Her breath warmed my lips. "Stay," she whispered. "Please." My chest ached with how much I wanted that. "I am not scared of him," I said. "I am scared you will lock that door behind me and I will never hear your voice again." She slid her fingers down my wrist and laced them with mine. "Then do not leave," she said. "Be here." Morning came too fast. I must have slept 2 hours at most, stretched out on her couch with my boots off and my jeans still dusty. When I woke, light was just starting to push through the curtains. My neck hurt, but it was the good kind of sore, the kind that came from working and staying when it was hard. There was a soft knock at the front door. I moved quiet, checked the window first. It was Marcus, hands in his jacket pockets, hat pulled low. He looked like he had not slept either. I opened the door before he could knock again. "You look like hell," he said. "Good morning to you, too," I said. He stepped inside without waiting. His eyes went straight to the garage door like he could smell the broken wood. "I saw your messages last night," he said, voice low. "Power cut, Mercedes, kid with pliers. Thought you might need some muscle and a guy who knows how to make trash disappear." Quote. He held up a heavy-duty contractor bag in one hand and a coffee in the other. I took the coffee, we went into the garage. The pile of broken armoire pieces lay in the middle like a body we had already taken apart. It smelled like dust and old varnish. Marcus whistled under his breath. "That was a nice piece once," he said. "It was a cage," I said. He glanced at me, then at the wood again. "Fair enough." He did not ask what happened. He did what he always did. He got to work. He started bundling boards with twine from his truck, making clean stacks that would look like normal demo scrap in a landfill. Elena stood in the doorway to the house, hair pulled back, face still pale but steady. She watched him work, arms wrapped around herself. "Morning," Marcus said, giving her a short nod, like she was any other client. "Morning," she said. I went to the kitchen, washed my hands, and checked the fridge. It was almost empty. A couple of condiments, half a carton of eggs, not much else. I remembered her cards being declined. "I am making a grocery run," I said. "I cannot," she started, then stopped herself. "He sees every card charge." "I know," I said. "I took cash from my pocket, counted it. It was not much, but it would cover basics. I have this. You pay me back when you can, or you do not. Either way, you are eating." She looked like she wanted to argue. Then she just nodded once. I hit the store as soon as it opened. Bread, eggs, soup, pasta, coffee, a few things that could sit on a shelf. Nothing fancy. I kept the receipt and folded it under one of the bag handles. When I got back, I set the bags on her counter. "Basics," I said. "Receipt is here if you want it." She touched the folded paper like it meant more than money. Outside, Marcus was tightening a ratchet strap over the bundled wood in his truck bed. "I will dump this with the job debris," he said. "If anyone ever asks, it came from a remodel down on Oak Street, not from here." "Thanks," I said. "Just add it to your tab," he said. "You still owe me for the deck lumber." "Put it on my tab of gratitude," I said. He snorted. "Gratitude does not buy nails." Quote. He left with the load, tailgate shut, boards stacked under a tarp. The armoire was gone for real now. Next thing was the footage. A few days before, I had mounted a small trail camera on my side of the fence, pointed toward the side yard. It was for raccoons, if anyone asked. Really, it was for anyone who did not belong there. We pulled up the clips on my laptop at her kitchen table. One video showed the kid with the pliers moving to the meter box. Another showed a car idling farther down the block. Another caught the silver Mercedes crawling past, license plate clear in the frame. Elena watched each clip with her jaw tight. No tears, just focus. "This is good," she said. "This is something real." She pulled out her phone and lined it up next to mine. We copied what we could. We added the photos of the wires in the hidden module. Then, with her hand only shaking a little, she called the sheriff's office. By the time 2 deputies arrived, she was sitting straight at the table, hair brushed, blouse clean, coffee untouched in front of her. She did not look like a broken woman. She looked like someone who had decided she was tired of being pushed. She told them everything. The camera, the cut power, the fight on the porch where he raised his hand, the hidden microphone. She did not dramatize it. She did not underplay it. She just laid it out. We showed them the footage and the photos. I walked them to the side yard and showed them where the kid had been, where the line had been cut on the soffit, and where I had repaired it. The older deputy nodded along, making notes. "We have enough to move on a restraining order," he said. "And we will be paying Mr. Vane a visit about vandalism and utility tampering. Cutting power like that is not a joke." After they left, the silence in the house felt different. Not empty, clean, like someone had opened a window. Elena went out to the porch swing and sat. I followed and leaned against the railing facing her. "The lawyer called," she said. "And?" I asked. She said, "Richard wants to settle," Elena said. "He does not want criminal charges or more police visits. He will give me the house if I let him keep the business assets, the hotels, the money." "Let him keep his money," I said. "You keep the sanctuary." She looked out at the yard, at the bare space where the armoire once sat, and at the garden where new green leaves were starting to push up in neat rows. "I am going to have a lot of empty space," she said softly. "I know a guy," I said, "builds decks. Might be able to build furniture, too." She let out a breathy laugh, surprised and real. 6 weeks later, fall came in quiet. Leaves in her yard had turned gold and red around the hydrangeas we had planted. My truck was in her driveway in plain sight. No sneaking, no hiding. Inside her kitchen, I was sanding a new floating island I had built from reclaimed oak. The sander hummed low. Fine dust clung to my arms and shirt like flour. The wood on the island was not from the armoire. That wood was gone, mixed with old beams and broken fence posts somewhere at the dump, turned into nothing. Elena walked in, wearing a soft blue sweater and jeans. Her posture was different now. Shoulders down, jaw relaxed, like her muscles had finally stopped waiting for impact. "Marcus is here," she said. "He brought the beer. And the invoice." "Of course he did," I said. "Of course I did." Marcus called from the doorway. He walked in like he belonged there, a folded paper in one hand and a six-pack in the other. He set the beer on the counter and held up the invoice. "Deck, lumber, hardware, extra bolts you swore you did not need," he said. "I needed them," I said. "You just like being right." He looked over the island. "Clean work," he said. "You finally built something that will not collapse." Elena smiled, a small private thing she did not hide. "The divorce is final today," she said. I turned off the sander and set it aside. I wiped sawdust off my hands before I touched her. Then I took her fingers in mine. "How do you feel?" I asked. She let out a slow breath. "Like I can breathe," she said. Marcus made a loud, fake gagging sound and popped a bottle open. "All right, Romeo," he said. "Save it for when I am not here." Elena rolled her eyes and laughed for real. Then she looked back at me, eyes soft. "Thank you," she said, "for helping me move the furniture." I glanced toward the backyard. The hydrangeas stood there, full and stubborn, bright against the cool air. "I carried boxes," I said. "You carried the rest." She rose on her toes and kissed me. Not hidden, not rushed, slow and sure. Anyone on the street could have looked in and seen it through the window, and that was the point. "Come outside," she said, tugging my hand. "We are celebrating." We stepped onto the back deck I had built. The boards were smooth under our feet. Golden lights slid across the yard. The air smelled like fresh-cut wood, damp leaves, and her perfume. Marcus followed with 2 beers, the invoice stuck in his back pocket where it could wait. He handed me a bottle and raised his own. "To not whispering in your own kitchen," he said. Elena touched her bottle gently to mine. Her grip was steady. Her fingers found mine and threaded through, firm and sure, like this was where they had always meant to be. My life used to be work and an empty house, just tools, lumber and quiet. Now it was this, sawdust on my skin, vanilla in the air, hydrangeas blooming in the yard. and her hand locked with mine like the world could not take it away.